The following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Let's ride, heading up 35. One way, we're headed at 90K. Over the two-lane causeway. We'll go left, it's gonna be a classy day. Kickstands down, head on over to the band stage. Kick back and listen to the band play. Whoa, whoa, let's take a ride today. Whoa, whoa, across the causeway. Rockin' day. Whoa, the classy chassis way.
Good evening and welcome to This House of Musicians with your host, singer, songwriter, and founder of the band, Inner City Outlaws, the Baritone Bear, Barry Smith, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board, send us an email right now. Our email address is thisHouseOfMusicians@gmail.com or instudio101@gmail.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, right to your host of This House of Musicians, Barry Smith.
Hey, folks. Welcome to This House of Musicians this evening. Good listeners, we hope you enjoy the next hour with us as we do our small part to help promote musicians, bands, and venues. Gary, how are you?
I'm fine, Bear. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Of course, we don't have to promote this gentleman tonight. We have Jim Henman on the show this evening, folks. And let me tell you about Jim Henman. He's co-founder of the band April Wine. And he met Miles Goodwin and formed April Wine. Miles and Jim were once part of a group named Woody's Termites between the years of 65 and 67. It was in that band that Jim and Miles wrote songs together for the first time. Jim has since gone on to write many songs and record fabulous music. In 2009, Jim was installed along with April Wine into the Canadian Music Hall, Industry Hall of Fame. In April of 2010, Jim had the great honor of receiving a Juno Award. Wow. Commemorating April Wine's induction into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Jim Henman, what an honor to have you here, my friend. How are you this evening?
Hey, Barry, thank you for having me. I'm fine. I'm a little warm. It's warm today down where I am, and that's about it. I'm warm. I just put the conditioner on.
Yeah, you're in Mexico there, and so is that what you do then, Jim? You go to Mexico every season, like a snowbird, or?
Well, we live down south, down here, either in Cuba or Mexico, during the winter. That's where we live, and it's like a 4-month stay, and it's a great place for me because I get to relax and do some writing, and some relaxation.
Real for
relaxation. Yeah,
absolutely, bud. And you've written many songs, and you have a wonderful voice, which I can't wait. We're going to spin a couple of your tunes tonight, and I can't wait for the listeners to hear your voice. I'm sure a lot of them already are because they're probably fans that are listening in tonight. But Jim, let's start right from the beginning, my friend. You were young. When you were young, how you were influenced by music and who you were listening to at the time, how old you were. Was it your parents that influenced you to music with their records, albums, or, was it something else, radio, or how, and who were you listening to at the time? Let's talk about that.
Well, I grew up with a father who loved country music. I grew up in the country, and only guy in the whole village that played guitar. My dad played, and he taught me, how to play G, C, D, and Jimmy Rogers songs, because that's what he loved, Jimmy Rogers songs, the old Jimmy Rogers from 1930s. The yodel, yodel, yodel.
Sure, yep. My dad too. He listened to that too.
Well, I love it. I still love it. Amazon Music has some of the old Jimmy Rogers on it, and I listen to them every so often, especially the ones that he wrote that were not strictly country blues, that had a little, I don't know what they had on them, because I wasn't around then. I don't know what his influences were, but I still listen to him occasionally. And I learned guitar playing Jimmy Rogers, and I suppose that's probably about 12 or 13. I wrote my first song, actually, Barry, when I was about 12 or 13.
Good for you.
I had a crush on this girl, man, and when you're 12 or 13, you get these crushes, and you can't tell them. You don't have the courage to say I like you, and would you like to hold my hand? Would you like to hold my hand?
Sure.
So what I did was my dad had bought a real German tape recorder. I forget what it was, little thing, reel to reel. And I wrote this song for her. I recorded it because I knew I couldn't play it for her live. I'd be too nervous, and wouldn't remember the words, whatever. So I recorded the song, and I called her. And back then we had the 3 rings, 3 long rings, 2 short rings.
Yeah.
That type of thing. That's what we had, man. And
of course,
I called her, and I think her name was Cheryl. And I called Cheryl, and I said, I wrote a song for you, and I played it for her.
Wow.
We never got together, but about 8 or 9 years ago, I ran into her.
Wow.
At a grocery store. That was a real treat, man. Still beautiful.
Wow. So you had a crush on her all these years.
Yeah, that was my first song, man, and first composition. But I moved from the country, of course, but I spent a lot of time in country because that's all we had. My dad listened to country. I'm not sure what my mom listened to, but she was very tolerant of my father, so she probably listened to country too. But I discovered probably around the time that listen to the rhythm of the falling rain, whatever year that was. Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain, telling me just what a fool. That tune. That's the first rock and roll pop tune that I remember. I'm not sure. I think it was the Cascades. Yes, it was. It was the Cascades. Mm-hmm. And I learned that song. So that's how I started, man. And then I met Miles probably about 3 years later when we moved to a little village outside of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, called Waverley. And we were just moving in. And this guy come running through the woods. And it was Miles. And he said, I hear somebody plays guitar here. And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, so do I. And I was just so excited, man, because I had no one to play guitar with down in where I grew up for those 3-4 years that I was learning. Nobody. So this was a treat. And, I'm sure we spent pretty near every afternoon playing guitar, after school. That was amazing. That's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah. And how old were you and Miles at this time around?
About 16.
Wow,
15,
that's amazing.
16.
And you guys started a band, Woody Sturmites.
Yeah, we had a couple little bands that were, we were just trying to get a band together. And I was a year or two ahead of him at school. So I was in the high school while he was in grade 9, I think. And there was a band started in my high school, Sidney Stephen High School, that was named The Creatures. Of all things, The Creatures. And me and one of my friends in high school and a guitar player and a drummer and a little keyboard player, the guy must have been about 13, Greg Stevens at that time. We put this thing together, but I didn't like the guitar player. He just didn't have it. But he had great gear. He had a Fender Tremolux and a Fender Telecaster. or Fender Strat or something like that. Anyways, I talked Dougie, the singer, who was the leader of the band. I said, Dougie, I got this buddy that's can outplay Patrick altogether. And I said, really? I said, the band will be a lot better if we bring Miles in. And so Dougie said, okay, I'll trust your taste. And I said, okay. So Miles came into the band, and we changed the name to Woody's Termites. And we had a very, 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 very successful, maybe 2 or 3 years with that band, at least 2 or 3
top
years.
40. Yep. Beautiful.
Top 40. Yeah, we played a lot of top 40. And, a lot of us guys who still play today, we cut our teeth on playing top 40, whether it was rock and roll, R&B, English pop, whatever. And then, of course, the Beatles came along. That changed everything.
For sure, it sure did. So you were in this band, too, with Greg Stephen, Dave Dotsworth, and Doug Grace.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, and it was fun. It was really fun. I had to take over bass because what happened was Miles had an acoustic guitar. I had an electric guitar. An old, I think it was called an Echo, EKO, made in Italy or something. Anyways, we wanted to start a band, and so my dad bought me a bass because, we needed a bass player. I didn't know how to play bass, and I still don't, but I can make it. I can pass it on simple stuff. But anyways, he bought me a bass, and I gave my electric guitar to Miles. And any old pictures you see of Woody's Termites, those are the 2 guitars that my dad bought for us so that we could play in Woody's Termites. We bought them just before Woody's Termites, but it made it possible for us to be in Woody's Termites.
Sure. Yeah.
Great
so
name,
then, well, hey, there's all kinds of Woody's Termites. There's all kinds of names similar to that. Back in the day, that's the way it was, right?
You don't forget it, I'll tell you that.
That's for sure. So here we are now, 1969. You're with Miles, and then you got your cousins, David and Richie Henman. And then you guys all moved to Montreal in 1970, got signed with Aquarius, and did your first album.
Yeah, except the one change I'll make in that little story is that I had actually played with Dave and Rich in a band called Prism. It wasn't the Prism of Upper Canada. It was just a local band in the Maritimes called Prism. And we split up in the summer of '69, went back to university, the 3 of us. And I went to Dave and Rich and said, look, I'm not into this university thing. Let's start another band and take off, see if we can do something. And that's when they presented me with the suggestion that I go ask Miles to join us. Right. They figured if I could get Miles to join the band, then they would join because they knew him from Woody's Termites. They knew his ability, and they would join the band, and we would try to do something. And we ended up, like you said, in Montreal. Eventually got a recording contract. It was a very good time in the music business because, up until around that time, there was really not a huge support on the government level or businesses or everything for the music industry in Canada, and probably not even the public didn't support it that much because there wasn't much of a music industry. And the Junos, what was it called? Not the Junos. I can't remember the name. Sorry about that. It's called a brain fart from my age. Anyways, whatever came in at that time, the Maple idea that they would play 30% Canadian content on the radio, and they had 4 requirements, I believe, if I remember properly, that before it would be considered Canadian content, and I don't know if you had to meet them all or not, but once you were accepted, then you could have that opportunity to get airplay, and that was just about the time that we started the band, or at least the time that we hit Montreal, and it allowed for Canadian record companies to be started, booking agents, musicians could record songs and get them played on the radio, which would give them a better audience, and they would be able to, as Miles did later, in 71, 72, when they had. I had left the band by then, but it was could have been Lady. when they could have been a lady, they were able to go across Canada, I think, with that tune. Whereas when we had Fast Train, I believe we were limited to Ontario down to down to the east, down to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and Cape Breton and that.
Sure, and let's face it, you're responsible for starting April 1. You got Miles in the band. We had Miles on the show, and can you really, is there any better singer than Miles Goodwin? I mean, and equal to you as well. You have a great voice as well, look what you started, because you can't drive anywhere in a car without hearing an April Wine song. One comes on every 20 minutes or every hour. There's an April Wine song on any radio station, a rock station. So, cahoots to the success that April Wine has had. And you know what? All the songs are great, and you guys have amazing voices. So good for you on that. So shortly after the release of the debut album in 1971, you left the band and you went back to the East Coast to start a family and pursue a career in medical technology.
Yeah, that's what it ended up being. The real thing that, as you get older and you're away from something and you live some life, and you get a better perspective on some of the decisions you made in life. And I loved to drink and party and smoke pot and, all the stuff that was around at that time. I indulged and I liked it very much. My drug of choice was alcohol, but I indulged in everything. But I got scared, to be honest. I got scared about my inability to control my intake of things, especially when I drank. You don't make very good decisions when you can't walk very well and somebody offers you something, you just take it, right? So I got a little worried about Jim, because Jim didn't have enough discipline or self-control, whatever the word is, to keep things straight and narrow. And I got really depressed too at the same time. Now that I look back, I realize part of the problem was that I'm more of an Americana guy, with some country, some folk, some blues, a little bit of rock maybe on the side. And I'm not a commercial writer. Very seldom do I write a song that I'll call commercial. I write songs that people like, but I'm not like some people in the business who can really direct themselves. Their goal is to write a single, or their goal is to write something very commercial. But they got to like it too at the same time. Most guys, I think. I like the song, but it does have this potential. I wasn't that good at that. And if you listen to that first album, there's actually 2 acoustic numbers on it that I wrote, and they were so far away from where we were as a rock band. I'm surprised the producer allowed them on. I really am.
Kidding.
But I had 2 rockers and two acoustic tunes, whereas Miles had a sensibility about him. I guess that's a proper word, to be able to write more rock and roll material, like pop material, whatever, like Fast Train and Listen Mister or whatever else he had on the project. So you could see that he had the sensibility and he had the ability to do it. And actually, if it wasn't, Fast Train allowed us to do another CD, another album back then.
Right.
So that's how important that song was, and the fact that he could write that type of song. So when I left, it was more of what they would call today a geographical kind of cure. I wasn't happy, and I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do. And as I've discovered over my life, what I kind of like is Americana, folk, blues, a little touch of pop.
Sure.
I'm not so that's where I've been, and that's where I've been since I went back at it about 30 years ago.
Sure. And you know what? Let me just read this, because I'm reading this off the computer. But despite the mainstream success of April Wine, your contribution to the band can hardly be deemed your greatest musical accomplishment, because you have, over the past 30 years, you've dedicated your passion, enthusiasm, and expertise to numerous projects, much of which holds special meaning in your life. One such project, Night to Remember, was a musical event held annually for 4 years that you co-produced in support of recovery homes for men and women in Halifax. Let's talk about that, because that's quite nice of you to do something like that as well.
Well, I'm a recovering person, you know. I've been sober for 40 years. Good for you. I don't usually say that in public, but but I had.
Oh, it's a great achievement. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, one day at a time, brother. So, anyways, I had a real soft spot in my heart, and so did one of my friends, Joe Graves in Halifax. He supported them very much, and he asked me one time about doing this show that we would work with Brooks Diamond. Brooks was Rita McNeil's manager back in the day, and Bruce Guthrow's manager for a while. He was quite active in the music business, and we asked him if he would support me on this. So I was kind of his. Probably many times I was kind of his assistant, you know, because he'd be saying, "Okay, Jim, go do this now," because I hadn't worked much backstage, but I learned quickly, and I think we did 3 or 4 shows, and they were done at Rebecca Cohen, and we raised quite a bit of money. I don't know what the figures were, but we raised quite a bit of money and supported the Elk Care. It's funny you should bring that up tonight, because I'm working with 5 guys now at Elk Care. We're trying a sort of an experiment where, you know, some of them are in there for 9 months, some of them are in there for 3 or 4 months. You never know. I think they have the capacity for 9 guys. They only got 5 this time. And these are guys, you know, that really have bottomed out big time, and they need help. And so we just, myself and the guy that runs the place, manages the place, the supervisor there, we decided to do, actually he came to one of the shows that Miles and I and Bruce have. I play with Miles Goodwin again, but it's an acoustic trio. Yep. And this guy had shown up, I don't want to give his name out, but he had shown up at a show we did in Toronto, Nova Scotia, and he really liked what we did. And we got chatting, and we started talking about this songs and that. And I said, well, geez, I'll come in and do a song, write a song with the guys, you know, a recovery song of some sort. And what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So we've been working on that for about, 5 weeks. We're going to do an hour a week. And we have a social worker involved. And what a treat it is for me to be working with these 5 guys and having them, you know, share a little bit of their stories with me and their thoughts, and put some of their ideas into the song. Because they're writing the song, I'm just kind of the editor, right? Mm-hmm. I gave them a melody idea, and then we, you know, get ideas from them. I edit. But so you just reminded me of that, actually, Kurt, Barry.
Yeah, good. No, I'm glad I did. Good for you. I want to play one of your songs here now that you wrote. But before I do, I want to tell the folks out there that in 2009, you were installed along with April Wine. This is just amazing. Into the Canadian Music Industry Hall of Fame. And in April of 2010, you had the great honor of receiving a Juno Award. Commemorating April Wine's induction into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Now, indeed, this is an ultimate achievement for you, Jim, man. Just let's briefly talk about the Juno Award, buddy. How did that feel? What was that like? What was that night like?
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't there. I think it was just Jimmy and Miles that went to receive the awards in Newfoundland. You know, they couldn't put up everybody that'd been in the band. I'm not sure how many exactly have gone through, but probably 10. 8 to 10. But anyways, I was told that it was going to happen, but I was in Spain. I was visiting a brother of mine who goes to Spain. He does like I do. He goes there every winter for 4 months. And I was over visiting him at that time. And gee, the Juno arrived, and my son got it.
Wow.
He went and picked up the Juno, and he took a picture of it, and he sent it home to me, sent it to me in Spain. And I said, oh, that's beautiful. And it is beautiful. And so it was when I came home, you know, and I put it, like I have a couple of 2 platinum CDs, and I don't know what else there, and I put it there, you know, to see the whole picture, you know, just to relish the moment because you know, I really was surprised, man. I really was surprised that it was given to all of us who had been involved in April Wine. It's wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a real. It's for me. It's part of my musical history for sure.
Well, it's just a wonderful achievement. How many people get Juno Awards? Let's face it. You know, it's just a great achievement for you. So good for you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Let's go. You're welcome, Jim. Let's go ahead and play one of your songs. I know we're going to play 2 tonight. So this is a song we're going to do. Shame, Shame Boogie. Is that what you want to do first, Jim? Shame, Shame Boogie.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. This one. This has got Miles playing some guitar on it, and I think he sings a little harmony too on it.
Yep, Miles Goodwin, April Wine playing guitar.
Solo. He plays the solo.
Yep, the solo on it. Beautiful. That's excellent. And folks, I have Jim Henman on the show, co-founder April Wine. And of course, Jim Henman has a lot of other CDs of his own music out there. Check out this voice, folks. Also, you can go to Jim Henman, just type it in Google, and you will find him. I want you to, folks, especially look for the trio with Bruce Dixon, Miles Goodwin, and Jim that they did of Put Your Hand in the Hand of a Man. It's just amazing. It's an acoustic thing. They're all just playing together. They did it a month ago, so I want you guys to Google that too. It's just amazing. Their voices are great. So, folks, here we go. We're going to play one of Jim's songs called Boogie Master, featuring Miles Goodwin playing the lead on the song. You're listening to this House of Musicians radio show right here on Reality Radio 101.
She was a young girl, sneakers on her feet. She'd head down to Portland Street. You know, she'd show all the boys how to have some fun and dance all night and show them how it's done. She saw him standing at the bar. She walked up to him. She said, "You're Bobby Marr." He said, "I do not like to dance." Grabbed my hand and he never even had a chance. Doing that shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie all night long. Doing that shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie all night long. It wasn't very long, it was her and Bobby Marr driving down a Portland Street in his car. They're talking about wedding rings, but every Friday night they dance like they had wings. Yeah, doing that shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie all night long. Doing that shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie all night long. A man to do it upright. Bobby thought he found the love of his life, but you know she found those nights so very long. Then one Friday night, you know Bobby, he was gone. She's doing that same, shame boogie, same, shame boogie, shame, shame boogie all night long. She's doing that same, shame boogie, same, shame boogie. Shame, shame, boogie.
Hey, welcome back, folks. I'm honored to have Mr. Jim Henman, the amazing Jim Henman, on the show tonight. Jim, let's talk about Shame Shame Boogie for a bit, where it came from, and maybe where you recorded it.
Where did I? Oh, I wrote that in Middleton, Nova Scotia. This lady I knew, she was dancing. I was watching her, and she was dancing like the way our grandmother would say. She'd call it shameful, you know? And I liked it myself, but but my grandmother would have said shameful. And then she left. She just disappeared. So I happened to have my computer with me and my guitar, and I was in a position where I could open the computer up and put a little drum track on GarageBand, which I like to use when I'm writing a tune. I like to put a drum track on there so I get a feel for it. And I started playing, and all about the Shame Shame Boogie. That's where it came from. It came quick. It came really quick. You know, it's a nice little song to play at a gig. I play a lot of smaller gigs, you know, less than 50, 75 people. And I like those type of gigs because they're personal, and I can have them sing along on that song in particular. Really easy to teach them the chorus. Yeah, and that was recorded. That was recorded at now a defunct. No, I think it's still around, called Echo Chamber. Charles was. Geez, I can't remember Charles's last name, but it's one that was used by a lot of people. I think Joel Plaskett did some work there. Mike Trask from lives in Moncton now. He did work there. A lot of people, younger guys. You know, I was hanging out with younger guys because that's who was into the type of stuff I was into. There's a certain crowd.
Absolutely, and I wonder how many songs have been written about women all around the world. Tons. That's a good one, but I don't think you'd even bother to pursue it because it's too many to go after. That's for sure. Jim, I have a few emails here and I want to read them. This one's from John. He says, hello, my name is John Darren. I chatted with Barry earlier via message. And here's my question. Jim, thanks for being on Barry's show. It's a pleasure just listening to these great stories and all the history that so many of us grew up with. I was 9 in 1969. I remember when you guys hit it big. I started playing guitar that year and never stopped. And you and the incredible music the band created inspired me throughout my life. My question is, as you look back on all those years, how do you see the influence you had literally on the whole music market and the influences of other bands that might have inspired April Wine to be a super success? And did you guys view like the Beatles or Queen as competition?
Well, you know, I mean, really, I left early in the band's career, so much of the success, most of the success, was the result of Miles and his hard work, you know, his writing, sure. You know, while other people were out partying and whatever, he was home working. And when on the road, I'm pretty sure he was working while he was on the road. He's got a real strong work ethic, much stronger than mine. So I take no. How can I take any responsibility, any whatever for
credit?
Yep. Credit for April Wine's success. It was you know, David was there for 2 or 3 of the hits, and the rest was Miles. And he, you know, the peak of the band was basically around Miles's material and some of Jimmy Clench's material, who took my place when I left the band, because Jimmy had an incredible rock and roll voice and a very good writer. I mean, you listen to some of his tunes that were on the albums. They were great. What's that one that goes ding 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 ding?
Yeah,
yeah, I think that might have been a co-write between Jimmy and Miles. I don't know, but anyways, yeah, I take no credit whatsoever. I'm you know, I made a choice of direction, and I'm very happy with what I did. I don't regret any decision, you know, I made to do with the band, starting it or leaving. You know, I made the right decision for me, And I found as I've gotten older, it was definitely the right decision. But you know what? The beautiful gift I got out of all the last 50 years, was for Miles and I to have always stayed friends.
That's great.
We've always stayed friends. Even when he was living in the Bahamas, I would be calling him in the Bahamas, and we'd be chatting and whatever, or talking to Phyllis, his wife at that time, who's deceased now. But I lost my train of thought. That's what I did.
Well, Jim, let's say that I'm not going to say that you don't deserve any credit for April Wine. I wonder, I know that you're the one that, approached Miles, got him into the band, and did the first album with him. Would April Wine and Miles have gone in the same direction? I wonder if that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I have no idea, and nobody would know that answer, Barry, because I think the situation, that the way the music business was just being born then in Canada, when as I explained earlier, to my understanding of what happened in the late 60s and early 70s, when there was a music business being born and starting to develop, so many people, like my dear friend Pam Marsh, who was playing with Miles, actually, when I went down to get him, she left Nova Scotia when her band broke up, when Miles joined us, Dave and Rich and I. She left and went with a band called Everyday People. And they went to Toronto and got a recording contract. I think it was with GRT or GTR. Can't remember now. Anyways, they put out a couple of singles, and they had a touring unit going there, and they had a nice sound, man, really nice harmonies and stuff. And so he may have went with her. Who knows? It may have been that he ended up with Pam going away there, and I think these things develop into similar stuff, unless you do what I did, which was I went back to study and worked as a chemistry technologist for 30 years, basically. But I think Miles would have gone on to stay in the music business somehow. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm going to just give you credit for the success of April Wine. You were there, like I say, the first album. You're the one that introduced or approached Miles to get him in the band. So you deserve definitely credit for that. I mean, after all, you got a Juno Award for it. I'm not the only one that thinks that. We got some more emails here, Jim. This one's from Brian. Brian says, "Hey, love Jim. Can you please tell me a bit more about Hen House Music? Thank you."
Hen House Music. Well, that's a good question, man. Well, there's not too much to tell. I started that so I could have an umbrella, to hang my songs on, and kind of. I just liked it because my name's Henman, and when I was a kid, I had chickens, and even as an adult, just like 8 or 9 years ago, I had chickens when I was. When I was single, I had a place and had chickens. So I love chickens. Love to smell them. Love how they look. I love the sound of them. They're just interesting creatures.
Absolutely.
So I wanted a name for my kind of umbrella that I was putting everything under, and there's not much under there anymore now because I kind of operate under Jim Henman now totally. I don't have to use this Hen House Music. It was an idea that I had that I thought would be catchy and would mean something to me. It still means something to me, but I don't use it anymore. I just use Jim Henman.
Sure. Here's one from Gwen. Hello, great guest on the show tonight. When Jim was working with April Wine Crew, what was the writing process like? What were his actual songs that he composed? So your writing process, I know for me, Jim, I will write. I go pick up my guitar, pick up a riff, or do a riff for 30 seconds or a minute, and store it on my phone. Maybe come back to it a couple of weeks later. If I still like the riff, turn it into a song. I'll make the lyrics after I kind of have the music. But sometimes, once in a while, the lyrics come to you before the actual music comes. So what's your creative writing process?
Well, it's totally changed over my writing life.
Cool.
At first it was very therapeutic. It was kind of a way to survive the emotions that I was going through, whether it was a woman, a girl, it would have been a girl at that time when I was younger, that I was falling in love with, and everything was about that. And then the next step would be about breaking up with her, and that would be the sad part. And, so it was very therapeutic. I don't think I went any further than basically talking about relationships, positive or negative, And I always, as far as I can remember, always worked from the guitar, and maybe an idea for a title, like one of my songs, "Can't Find the Town." That idea, that was I think where the song came from. I've loved you before in so many towns, or something, but now I can't find the town or something. I don't remember the lyrics, to be honest. I haven't played it ever since, probably since 1971 or so, 72. But and then you get odd ones, where you have some lines. But now I tend to start from a title or from guitar work, and I do a lot of co-writing now. So I really like co-writing because I think I can produce better tunes co-writing than I can by myself. And I enjoy the process so much because the other person, I choose who I write with, and the other person sometimes has really interesting ideas that I would have never thought of.
Absolutely.
Where to take the chords, where to take the melody, where to take the script, the story of the song, what the ending might be. So I enjoy it very much. And that can start with me fooling around on the guitar, or them fooling around on the guitar, or singing a little melody, and then again it can start with a title, the same as many of my songs have started from a title. Because I keep song titles on my phone right now. I usually write them down. Now I've got, I don't know how many on my phone that I go to every so often when nothing's happening and I want an idea. I want some kind of inspiration. I'll do that. So that's where the songs come from. Right now, let me see. What am I working on right now? Well, actually, what I'm working on right now is I went through some old melodies that I've probably got a couple hundred old melody ideas. Again, on my phone, I dumped them onto my phone, so I have them readily, at hand. And I will go through there, and I hear one which I did. It was last week. I went through it, and I was listening to this one melody. I said, "Oh man, I like this. This is really cool." I sent it to a guy that I've done a little co-writing with, and I said, "You think you can do anything with this?" And he heard something in it, and he said, "This is what it reminds me of," and what I'm hearing. And he sent me back some lyrics, and I liked some of them lyrics, and then I'll do a rewrite and I'll send it back to him and see what he thinks. I'm still a learner. Is that the right word? A learner when it comes to songwriting. I'm actually working with a group in Nashville right now, just looking at improving my songwriting and learning more about co-writing, and just trying to develop more as a songwriter, because I love songwriting. And as I get older, maybe all I might be able to do is just sit down and write a song, and if I can still do that, I'll be grateful. It was where I started.
Absolutely. And I know Miles, when he writes, he does lots of catchphrases, and that seems to work really well for him.
Yeah, and I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I have a list of them. Like I said, I have a list of them, and I try to have them as catchphrases, but not really common ones, but ones that you can turn into something, that stay with you and can turn into something.
Sure. Here's an email from Ann. Jim, hey, just tuned in. How did the name April Wine come about? That has to be the most unique name of any band in rock and roll.
My cousin David came up with that. I don't know where it came from.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Here's one from Mike. Let's just do one more email here because they keep coming in, but I want to play another song. I want to talk to you about my favorite part of the show is tell me a crazy story that's happened to you on stage or backstage or on a bus or tour bus. But anyway, let me just read this last email, and then I'm going to, because we're getting lots of them. Hello, if I may ask Jim a question, please. This is from Mike, and Mike says, what is his favorite April Wine song and why? I really think that with most of these songs, they should have all been hits. Very pleasant to listen to, very commercial, and very well put together and produced.
Well,
so what's your favorite April Wine song?
Well, that's a good question. Very good question, Mike. I really didn't have one until the last 3 or 4 years. I've always followed their career because I wanted to see what Miles was doing. But when I started playing with the trio, with his trio, we formed a duo probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And then we brought Bruce in, and it came into be a harmony group, 3-piece harmony. And we were playing a lot of the hits, not all of them, but a lot of them. And as we added songs to the repertoire, I realized that the song that I loved the most when we played it, not only because it sounds so nice on stage, it just as an acoustic number with 3-piece harmony, it's like, oh man, is just between you and me.
For sure.
Yeah, that is a beautiful song, so well crafted. You know, it's just a great song. Just a great song.
It sure
is. That's my favorite.
Good for you. And I know it's a great song for sure. I mean, like great songwriters, great voices. I just can't say that enough. I know Miles, he was on the show. I think his favorite song to play, I don't know if it's his favorite song, was Roller anyway, but he really digs playing that live on stage. It's a pretty hopping song. Anyway, okay. Song. I want to read one more email because I think this one's important, and then we'll listen to another one of your songs, Jim. This one's from Harry. Harry says, loves Jim's stuff. Wow, what a website. Now he's talking about your website. It's hard for anyone to ask a question since Jim is so thorough on his website. That means everything's there for people to read. I love it. Everything that we need to know about Jim is listed there. Great job. So, folks, indeed, Jim Henman, H-E-N, M-A-N, Jim Henman. Check him out online, and please check out the trio that they just posted last month of Miles, Bruce Dixon, and Jim. It's just amazing, the songs. Put your hand in the hand of a man. Jim, let's play another one of your songs, bud. This one is called Some of These Children. I love this tune. And then let's play it, and then we'll talk a little bit about it when we come back. How's that?
Okay, brother.
Yeah, that's awesome. Folks, believe it or not, I'm stoked. I have Jim Henman on the show this evening, and we're going to listen to one of his songs called Some of These Children right here on this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101.
They're hurting their children, their boys and their girls. It used to be safe in school. What's happened to this world? No one will stand up and tell us the truth. Something bad is going on. What can people do? Some of these children will never grow up. Some of these children will never grow up. God have mercy on the man with that gun. Pray for the mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons. We can't keep living with insanity. How many more before people see that some of these children will never grow up? Some of these children will never grow up. Maybe the children can show us the way. They're out on the streets marching and shouting today. They all have dreams of what could be done. They're telling all of you to drop all your guns. Some of these children, they'll never grow up. Yeah, some of these children, they'll never grow. Well, they'll never grow up. Oh, they'll never grow up. They'll never grow up.
Hey, welcome back, folks. I have the amazing Jim Henman on the show this evening. Jim, some of these children, what a powerful message, man. Let's talk about that for a bit, how you feel about the way the world is now. I mean, it's definitely different than it was 30, 40 years ago. There's neighbors that live beside each other. They don't even know who each other are. They don't talk to each other. It's just amazing what the world has turned into. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody, Jim. There's people out there that still have great dignity and are honest and whatnot, but it sure has changed a lot in the last 40 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it has, Barry. And you know what? Unfortunately, probably every generation says that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
The world's changed since I was a young person or whatever.
Well, remember when the Beatles came out, all the parents thought that the world was coming to an end.
Yeah, I remember my dad thought it was a passing fad. They were a passing fad. Anyways, getting back to your question, I think there's been some changes, but that song came out of a school shooting. Where my wife and I were in Cuba for the winter, and I think there were 17 kids killed in this school shooting, and we really hadn't been listening to the news that much. So when I heard this, I was like, "Holy jeez, what's going on in the world?" Right, exactly what you just implied. What's going on in the world? And we cried. We hugged each other, cried. And She was a teacher. She was a teacher when she was. Working in the field. So it really hit her too. So I had just brought a Cuban trace. It's called a trace, Tres, with three sets of double strings. So it's like having a 3-string guitar, but all three of the strings are doubled in octave. And I was learning how to play it, so I went in the bathroom, to be honest. I sat on the toilet seat and sat there and started playing this thing. And this song started to come, some of these children. And that's how it developed.
Absolutely. And what a great song it is. Powerful message for everybody. I know that the show's only till 8 o'clock, but I would like, if it's okay with Gary, to go a little longer with you. There's still a couple more questions that are important to me to ask you, Gary. If that's okay, if we can go a little longer, if that's okay with you and Jim.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Jim, one of my favorite questions on the show that I always ask all the artists is, tell me a crazy story that's happened to you while you were performing. I have one that I'll just briefly tell you. We were playing at the Greeks, me and Ben Haynes. I was probably 25 years old, just two of us, a duet on stage, and there was a native couple all dressed in black leather, and they were about 40 feet away at the bar, and I started playing Kalijah by Hank Williams, and she threw like a full beer bottle at us. I don't know why. It went right between both of us. It smashed on the wall behind us, and Ben just said, "I'm out of here," packed up and left the Greeks. I stayed and played. Her old man came over and said, "I apologize for that," and it was just a crazy scene, but it turned out okay because I kept Ben's money. But that's something that happened to us. I'm very fortunate that didn't hit anybody, or it didn't hit me or Ben on stage. But anyway, I want you to tell me a crazy story that's happened to you, friend.
I can't tell you a real crazy story. I don't remember any crazy stories. I don't remember, right? But I can tell you a story that has stayed with me for 50 years. Now, I'm the oldest of 10 kids, and my mom and dad were wonderful parents in many ways, but I was a rebel, and I didn't get along with my father at all, and I was a black sheep in many ways. But when David and Richie and I and Miles took off for Montreal, my dad supported us a certain amount. More than I know, actually. I think financially he supported us a little. Anyways, I had been in Montreal probably for, I think it might have been early 71, mid 71, something like that. I can't remember really. And we were playing somewhere outside at an outside concert. And I looked out off the stage. I looked out, and there was my father.
Wow, man. Wow.
Yeah. There was my father standing in the field. And at first I wasn't sure, gee, that can't be Dad. But it was. He had to come to Montreal. He had to come from Halifax to Montreal on business. And he didn't want to tell me. He wanted to surprise me. And, just telling you about it makes me feel a little, heart emotion about it, because my dad's gone. He's been gone since 73. So that was a couple of years before he died when this happened, maybe 2 years. And that was a special moment, man. That was a real special moment. That was it.
Absolutely. I bet you were choked up. And so then I bet you he was very proud of you. You were on stage playing, and there he is out there watching you. Just incredible story. And so then, of course, you guys talked after the show and whatnot.
Yeah. But I don't remember talking to him, but I know I did. But the thing I remember most, Barry, is just looking out from the stage. And it wasn't a small crowd either. It was a pretty good-sized crowd. And there he was. I said, whoa.
Good for you. What a great story that is indeed. Good for you, Jim. Jim, there's a segment of the show that I like to do called, Well, Gary, what do you think?
Well, what do I think? I've always, as I say, not only April Wine, but I've took an interest in Jim's career and kind of been listening to what he does and what he stands for and organizations and things he's supporting. And that emailer was right. You can go to his website, and Jim, you did a really fantastic job, basically letting the world know about your life. And, yeah.
That might be a neurosis. That might be more of a neurosis than a good job.
Well, there is something on your site that says, I don't recall exactly, but it says something about miscellaneous or all other things or whatever. And yeah, that's hilarious. But you know what? Even at the very beginning of April Wine, I've always been, I like commercial pop and rock. And anything with a good melody, a good tune, good harmony, good vocals, and put together good by a producer, I've always loved. And I think, everything you've done, I really enjoy it and I love it. And I just want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
I'm really happy to hear that you've been on my website and looking me up. You often wonder whether anybody's watching you on there.
Sure. Well, we did. Now I think saying this twice, a couple of times, I think it's amazing that all the listeners right now, and Barry has several thousand listeners, including tonight on the radio station. We want to push that. So maybe one more time, Bear, if you don't mind, Jim can push that website, because I'd love to get traffic going to that.
Absolutely. Me too. Jim, just tell everybody where they can find you online and whatnot.
Well, there's two places, jimhenman.com, and then there's Jim Henman, my Jim Henman page on Facebook, where I try to, keep things updated there. So they're the two important ones.
Absolutely. And you say you wonder if people are watching or listening. What I found about Facebook, Instagram, and websites is you'd be surprised when you post stuff on Facebook and you only get 10 likes and 2 comments that really several thousand people have actually looked at it. There are ways to find that out. I put videos up and there's view videos, and it doesn't say it to the general public, but you can actually see how many people have viewed something that you post, especially like a video or whatnot. And it's very surprising. Yeah. It's very surprising how many people look and listen but don't say anything. So they're out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that. I mean, I'm a little savvy about the Facebook issue, but we're very fortunate today, especially with the pandemic the way it is. That we can make use of the internet and of Facebook, and some guys are getting into live stream shows and that. I haven't done any of that myself this year, but I'm pondering it. I'm just working it all out because
Jim,
sorry.
I'd love to see you sit with your acoustic guitar, either through a PA with reverb or whatever else on it, or just plain sitting there, over the next little while in Mexico with your acoustic singing one of your songs. Put it right on the video and put it out there. That'd be fabulous, man. You're a fabulous singer.
I'll do one just for you, Barry. I'll do one.
I appreciate
you
that.
You and Gary, I'll do one.
Wow, I feel that's amazing.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Jim. I really want to see one. Jim, what can I say? It's an honor to have you on the show. You've had a wonderful musical career. I want to keep following your progress. We'll get you on the show again next year. I don't know if you're doing an album or you're going to continue to write songs. And go ahead.
I'll doubt if I stop writing songs, brother, as long as I can do it. I love writing. That's my passion. Right now, I'm when I record, I just do one song at a time, because the way the music industry is right now, the digital product is the one that's moving. The only time I sell product, as far as CDs and that, is at shows, and the shows have not been around for quite a while, and they're not going to be around for quite a while yet.
Yes,
this pandemic could keep us home for another 6 months or so. Who knows? It's unpredictable.
Agreed. And a lot of musicians are hurting. A lot of musicians, actually, that's their livelihood. That's how they make their money. I'm sure they're doing other stuff, but it'll be absolutely amazing to get back, especially with the artists we've had on the show, and get out and see them play. So we're all looking forward to that. Let's hope it's in the next 6 months. And what can I say, Jim? Again, honor to have you on the show. You have a wonderful music career. We'll keep following your progress. As I said, we'll get you back on the show in the future. Man, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Both of you, Gary and Barry. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's our honor to have you, my friend. And to the listener, I say thank you for being here. Always dance and sing, and let the music bring your soul to the surface for all the world to see. Until next time, have a shuffle your feet kind of week, and good night. You've been listening to This House of Musicians.